It's partially that, it's partially the imagery of the phoenix, right? And that we're living in a time. This is something, the phoenix has come up for me so many times through other people, in imagery, just, synchronicity, right? Like phoenix, phoenix, phoenix all over the place. And it has a lot to do with what I think is going on, what my personal feelings are about what's going on right now in our part of the world, at least, but I think in the world in general, that there's a lot of burning down, like crumbling and destroying, and new things are going to be birthed out of that. And that, it might feel incredibly scary because so many things that are very intense on so many levels, 3D and otherwise, are going on right now for everyone in the world, right?
Yeah.
So can be really scary. We can get caught up in that. Oh my God, things are falling apart. Everything is crumbling. What that need for us to have everything is being safe and controllable and predictable all the time in order to feel calm, in order to feel secure. That's really being rattled, right? The rug is being pulled out from under us.
Alrighty, hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. Today, we have two very special guests lined up for you, and I am stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together. Leslie?
Hello, I'm your co-host, Leslie, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And we are very excited to have Sinéad and Anthony with Fire in the Cosmos with us today. Sinéad, would you like to say hi first?
Sure. Thank you so much for having us, guys. We've been looking forward to this, and I know this is going to be a great conversation.
Yes. Anthony?
Awesome. I cannot wait either. I'm excited, looking forward to it, and looking forward to interacting with your audience.
Absolutely. And I figure I might as well get this out the way now. Shout out to Pavel for hooking this up and suggesting we all do this. So thank you, Pavel, and
Thanks,
Tico
Pavel.
Activo podcast.
Yes.
All right.
Pavel.
And for our audience, in this episode, we dive headfirst into the mystical unknown with Anthony and Sinéad, the magnetic duo behind the podcast Fire in the Cosmos. These two experiencers explore humanity's biggest questions. Who are we? Why are we here? And what lies beyond the veil? Through a powerful balance of divine feminine and masculine energies, they journey through realms of UFO and UAP phenomena, magic, consciousness, mysticism, multi-dimensional encounters, and even life after death. They've spoken with everyone from everyday experiencers to cutting-edge scientists, spiritual teachers, and academic thinkers, and today they're bringing that cosmic fire straight to living life consciously. Plus, they just returned from the SOL Foundation Symposium 2025 in Italy, and they're sharing the inside scoop on what went down behind the scenes of one of the world's most important UAP gatherings. If you love exploring the edges of reality, expanding consciousness, and bridging the mystical with the scientific, you're in the right place. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
That was a wonderful introduction. Like, yeah, I'm even more excited to get going.
Oh, I told you I did my homework, girlfriend. I told you.
You did. I'm convinced now.
All right, so do you guys mind if I start with a question? Is that cool?
Yeah.
To start, go for it.
Okay, I'm a creature of habit, and I kind of like to start at the beginning. You don't have to give me like your whole life story, but like what first awakened each of you to the world of UAPs, mysticism, and all these unseen realms?
Who, Anthony, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll take it.
That's a big one.
I thought I was ready. What first awakened me? So it was a series of awakenings I had personally. I would say it was really things that I thought that I had my feet grounded in ways of living and being and thinking that were shaken for some reason and were broken, and that kind of allowed other things to come in. So that happened to me with my religious upbringing first. I was raised pretty conservative Catholic. pretty traditional Catholic. I was an altar boy, like the whole shebang.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And probably it was actually the tragic massacre at Virginia Tech in 2007 during my sophomore year that really shook that and got me to reassess things and think about life in different ways. But at the same time, I was in college, I was out of the house and away from my immediate family community and meeting people from different traditions, different cultures, different religions. That was really important. And at the same time, that kind of woke me up politically as well.
Okay.
I was super conservative, like pretty right wing, I would say. And that changed pretty drastically. I was studying international relations. I was studying political theory and political science. And I was being exposed to, again, things from all over the world, different thinkers, different cultures, and that changed me completely as well. So these are like complete flips that were happening in me.
Wow, sounds like it.
And then I would say COVID, fast forward, like back to COVID and quarantine time. And that was the next big thing that shook me. And that got me to just reassess life and what was going on inside and outside of me completely. And it kind of awakened this connection with nature and like the mystical around me. And I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it happened as I was starting to listen to podcasts and get into like books and things like that related to the UFO topic. And it was specifically the existence that I was not aware of people having positive, benevolent, life-changing experiences in this field that began to kind of get my mind working in different ways, my analytical mind first, to see connections with spiritual traditions, with near-death experiences and mystical experiences and psychedelic experiences, and you name it. And I began drawing like a thread through all of these, and that's really what got me into all this.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great answer. Sinead, what about you? Was your path similar with a religious upbringing and then a complete 180, or were you different?
Not at all. My path, Anthony and I kind of ended up in a similar place, but our paths are quite different. So I'm Canadian. I live in Toronto. I grew up in a family with two parents who had been raised Irish Catholic. They were the only ones who left Ireland, left their families, and moved to North America. And part of that was actually to get away from the entrenched hold that Irish Catholicism had on pretty much every aspect of Irish life at that time. And they had a lot of difficulty with that. They really started questioning the church and questioning their teachers, because all their teachers were nuns and priests, right? I mean, it was really full on. Like, the education system was Catholic, the banking system was run by Catholic values, the government was run by Catholic values. It's very Catholic. And they started questioning, and they kept getting this very frustrating answer, which was just be quiet. God says so. Just because God says so, that's all you need to know, right? So they realized that there was a real lack of critical thinking. And I'm very lucky. My parents are smart people. They taught me to think critically. They taught me to think about, my father was a graphic designer while I was growing up, and he taught me to think about advertising and things like that. So there were some sort of bedrock influences, I think, in that my parents taught me to read a lot, to think, to ask questions, that I think helped me on my path. But essentially, in a nutshell, I think I kind of came into this lifetime, and I never would have said this up until a few years ago, but, the more my experience unfolds, meaning spiritually and in terms of consciousness investigation, the more I kind of get this feeling validated. And that feeling is, first of all, I believe strongly in reincarnation. I don't think we are our bodies. I think that we're all consciousness. We're made of energy, and that we go in and out of bodies in different lifetimes. And, so I had already had this sense that just sort of made sense to me. But what I did not have any awareness of was that I think I really came into this lifetime ready to do hardcore spiritual work, because when I was 10 years old, I started journaling, and I remember writing in my journal when I was maybe 11. I actually remember this, which is interesting too, right? That I actually remember writing this, that I noticed patterns in my family that I didn't want to repeat, and I wanted to heal these patterns. And I'm 11. I mean, I think that there were certain things that were not necessarily even coming from me that were coming from somewhere else that I was kind of picking up, and integrating into how I was thinking. So when I was a child, I was extremely intuitive. I had a lot of abilities, like psychic abilities, ESP, future vision, remote viewing. I used to remote view my Christmas presents. Yeah, like I never told my mom, but I mean, I didn't even think to say anything. When you're a child and you have all these abilities, as many kids do, you don't think to say anything. It's just how it is. It's just normal. That's all you know. And you're not at a point yet where you're comparing yourself to anyone else, right? So that was the beginning of my life. And this was completely an experience that I was going through entirely on my own. I never told my parents or anybody else about any of the things that were happening to me, including having, the one time I did tell my parents was I had a huge experience when I was 4 that really, I think, was incredibly important. It was very scary. There was a being behind me in my bed, and there was a presence in the room, and there was this buzzing sound and all kinds of things. I believe now that it was scary, not because the being was scary or that the being was trying to scare me, but just that the energy of that experience was so enormous that at 4 years old, I was just scared, and it was in the dark and it was at night. So I think it was things like that. I did tell my parents that happened. They said to me, of course, it was just a bad dream. Don't worry, everything's okay, go back to sleep. So then, grew up. Became a teenager and, in my 20s and so on, and became gradually more and more disconnected from my true self because we get programmed and conditioned. And, I think maybe especially for women are taught to always think about everybody else and not really think about yourself. So, I spent a lot of time getting further and further away from who I really was, which was really, somebody who is pretty tuned in, like that's really my fundamental self. And so in my 20s and 30s, I started having a series of really difficult challenges that made me get to a point essentially of the dark night of the soul, really, where I was like, what the hell is all this for? How did I get here? What is my life? What am I doing? Like, what is this for? I don't understand who I am. I don't understand, like, what is this? Why does this world operate like this? Which is also a feeling I had in childhood. I would look at adults and just be like, I don't understand why you're making these choices and these decisions and why you're interacting with each other this way. It logically didn't make sense to me. And so that feeling just kept increasing through adulthood. And then that became a kind of mantra. And the mantra was, I have to get back to how I was as a child. I have to get back to how I was as a child. And it just became a really, really, really driving, motivating feeling for me. And that paired up with a feeling I'd kind of always had, which was needing to find meaning, like just having this feeling that there was more and I just couldn't see it, but I knew it was there somehow, right? So because of that dark night of the soul and the determination to get back to what unconsciously I felt was really my true self, then what basically happened was I was living completely normal, 3D normal life, right? Like, had a job with a special education teacher and worked for a school board, paid my bills, had a boyfriend, had friends, went shopping, blah, 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 like all the stuff you normally do. I was not thinking about UFOs. I was not thinking about extraterrestrials or anything that we're about to talk about in this conversation at all. And through a series of interesting events, I think because my soul was kind of calling out for help. I really was, I was severely depressed. I had lost connection with myself, connection with meaning. I didn't know what the hell my life was, where I was going with my life. I think that feeling was me calling out. I was really asking for help in an unconscious way. And extraterrestrials showed up in my life in 2017. So they came to me. I did not ask for anything. They just showed up in my life at the time and gave me a series of messages and told me that this was my invitation. So at the time, that was during an ayahuasca retreat. I had never done any psychedelics before that. I just went straight for the mothership because I felt like ayahuasca was what was going to do it for me.
Yeah.
And so I was in Peru and, took ayahuasca and met the extraterrestrials, and it was an unbelievably special experience. But I also thought I had made it up because I just thought when you take psychedelics, that's what happens. You create something that you see and experience. Yeah. And so, but what bothered me is that if I was going to make something up that came from my own frame of reference, why would I make that up? Because that's not part of my life at all.
Right.
So why would I have made up being inside a UFO, meeting light beings, receiving these messages? Like, that didn't make sense. And so I kept thinking about it. And then in 2019, in the middle of the day, right here in my living room, like inches away from where I'm sitting right now, I watched the Bob Lazar and Area 51 documentary because I knew vaguely that. Okay, so 2017, I first met extraterrestrials, could not compute it, thought I had made it up, didn't know where to put it. It did not change my reality, but it was kind of hanging around in the background of my psyche. Like, what was that?
Sure.
2 years later, I'm recovering from my second cochlear implant surgery because I'm deaf. So I had my second cochlear implant surgery, and it's a big deal. You have to recover for quite a while. All I could do was lie around watching movies because I was dizzy 24/7. And by the end of 2 weeks, I was just so bored, because I'd been watching whatever American movies, like the typical just movies that are blockbusters and so on.
Right.
And my brain was starved for something substantial. So I just said, I need to watch something totally different, and found on Netflix Bob Lazar and Area 51, Jeremy Corbell's film. And I was like, oh yeah, Area 51. Yeah, there's something supposed to be, there's something interesting about that place, I think. Not having a clue, right? Watched the documentary. Immediately after it was over, 3 light beings appeared in my living room. They just showed up in my living room and gave me an enormous, indescribable experience that changed my life, everything about my life, literally overnight. And then it's been like a fire hose since then. I mean, honestly, I've had so many experiences I can't even tell you, and it's been really wonderful. It's been really, really, it's been what I've been looking for all my life. Like, it's given meaning to me. It's given meaning to the way I see everything, the way I see all my relationships, the way I see my relationship with myself. It's everything to me. So consciousness and the pursuit of understanding who we really are and what we really are and what this is all really for is my absolute number one passion in life.
Wow. I'm really glad that they presented themselves to you so that you can have that fulfillment where you feel like you're finally getting the reason why you incarnated here. That's really awesome, because I know it stinks, and it's pretty traumatizing when you go through that ontological shock I'll speak for myself. Once I started down my spiritual journey and I had that ontological shock moment, and I'm like, wait a minute. Everything I've been taught, all the ways I've been operating, all the rules I've been living under are garbage. They're all backwards and upside down and don't really mean what they said they're supposed to mean. And it's like, wow. And then you have to go through the process of diving down all these rabbit holes and trying to learn stuff. But every time I went down a rabbit hole with one question, I came back out with 30 more questions. So it's like a never ending cycle of trying to figure this shit out.
It's endless. There are no answers. I don't think there are any answers, and I'm totally okay with that. I love living in the I don't know, because then every possibility is available to you. But also, I just want to say, Anthony and I talked about this yesterday. And ontological shock for me did not happen. I actually had the complete opposite experience where I had this, like I said, this absolutely massive experience in the middle of the day in my living room, not on ayahuasca, just totally normal day. And it was a feeling of incredible joy, of relief, of recognition, of familiarity, of I knew it. I knew there was more. It was validation. It wasn't oh my God, now everything's upside down. It was more, now everything makes sense. Everything I felt all this time makes sense. It's real. It's valid. It's true. So it actually infused me with joy, inspiration. It was really an incredible, incredible experience. Yeah.
It was like your veil lifted.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's funny to say that because I remember being a kid and having this visualization a million times that there was an invisible curtain in front of me. And if I could just find where the, right now looking at my home, it's as if this is a screen. This is like an illusion. It's not actually here. And that if I could just find the edge of the curtain and pull it aside, that I would see what was really behind it. So veil, curtain, similar thing.
I had a similar experience that I didn't get into earlier. I wasn't sure how deep you wanted me to go. But I, during COVID, when I was kind of reawakening, I guess, back into that childhood feeling, I developed a protocol through my research and my deep dives to try to initiate a form of contact. And and it worked. And it also involved psychedelics, mushrooms. And that was
Nice.
also my first time ever touching psychedelics.
Okay.
And it was for this purpose. And it included breath work. It included gateway process meditation from the Monroe Institute,
Yeah.
forms of sensory deprivation, fasting. Like I combined all of these different modalities that I'd come across, including some like shamanic drumming sounds. And that experience was also like life-changing for me. It just I had an entity encounter that was also like nothing that was kind of in my worldview in terms of what it looked like and what it felt like. It was like a man with a falcon or a hawk for a head, with like what you would see in Ra or Horus.
Ah, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Very Egyptian vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
I
not
love
into that
Egypt.
stuff. I was not into that stuff.
Okay.
And that's how it manifested for me.
Wow.
And the messages that I received from it and these others that were around it that were not visually perceptible. I mean, I was shown a past life experience that was also not, part of my wheelhouse. I was given messages, and it wasn't messages; it was a communication. It was a back and forth telepathically. There were things happening to my physical body that I was aware of while I was in this space. That was kind of this astral space. I had spontaneous mudras come to into my hands that I didn't even know the term mudra at the time.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And I looked these up later, and they were like pre-existing mudras that were intricate, like not your stereotypical ones. So things like that happened to me, but like Sinead, it also did not feel like an ontological shock. It was like I knew this and I had forgotten it, and it felt like we all had known this, whatever this was, like this feeling or being or this space of relationality with this, whatever it was. So it was a sense of familiarity, like deep familiarity and love and interconnectedness. But I would say for me, when you hear the term ontological shock, it usually implies like what comes after as well, not just the initial shock. For me, I would say this as a cautionary tale for listeners.
Okay.
The integration of that with the 3D, the reality that we have to function in, that's the tough part. That's where like the hard work has to come in. The community really has to come in, which often is not talked about.
Right.
Otherwise, that's how you can, get derailed and
Right.
and not really come back from some of these experiences and lose yourself in them. So I've managed to handle that pretty well, thankfully, because of a lot of synchronicities that arose after the experience that got me very well connected in these spaces and these communities. It was great, but I continued that contact protocol every like 2 months, and the experiences have not always been amazing. So some of them have been more shocking than others, even now. So the community, the integration, the ability to hold things lightly and while taking them seriously, I would say that's been really critical for me on this journey.
I think it's absolutely important to stay grounded.
Yeah.
Just speaking to what you just spoke of.
I'm
Yes.
feeling drawn to ask both of you if either of you have ever met a mantid.
Yes, I have actually. But
Right.
I wouldn't say I've met them. I've met light beings, other kinds of beings, but mantis is the newest one that's coming in. So I was at the Conscious Life Expo, which I don't think I'll ever go back to. It was 13,000 people in a hotel. I cannot handle that.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, but there's all kinds of incredible stuff going on there. And one of the things was this amazing thing called a Roxeba bed. If you've ever heard of it, it sort of it replicates the psychedelic experience. So you lie down on a cot, you have a blanket over you, you have headphones on with binaural beats, and then you have this light over your head, and you're supposed to close your eyes when you're lying down. So you just close your eyes, the light's coming through your eyelids, but the way that the light is designed, it circulates, it creates the geometrics and the colors inside your eyelids that you get if you have a psychedelic experience. So before Hakeem Isler, who created Psy Games, is a dear friend of mine. So we were walking around together and he was like, hey, you want to try the Roxiva bed? And I said, sure, I love psychedelics. Like, I'm happy to do that. So we lay down and I asked them ahead of time. I asked the father and son who were there, selling the Roxiva beds and talking about them. What are the typical kind of experiences that people have when they do this? And they said, oh, just psychedelic colors and shapes and geometrics, and it's really amazing, and you feel great, and that kind of thing. And I said, okay, so, did anyone ever talk about seeing beings or hearing anything? And they're like, no, not really. And they've been doing this a long time. So I heard that. Lay down, and what was happening for me was this mantis face, and I did not again, I have not asked for a mantis connection. I've asked for anyone who wants to come through with certain parameters. I don't just say, hey, come get me. You have to have parameters, right? Sure. Like, if you have good intentions, if you're here to work with me and help me on my evolution, I want to meet you. And then, of course, there's beings I'm already in touch with who I'm now familiar with, and I'm okay with them being around. But I've never called on mantis specifically. I thought that I didn't have anything to do with mantis. I thought it wasn't a connection of mine. Yet what happened was this mantis face in the geometric patterns and colors was repeatedly just coming at me, this friendly sort of, there's something about it that felt like, again, kind of like an invitation. It was like it was saying hi, Wow. Then immediately after that, like right after that, I had a synchronicity where there was a friend of mine who really wanted to go to, she was like, I want to go to this thing. It was a workshop or a seminar or something. She just grabbed my hand and pulled me along with her. I want you to come with me. So we went into this room, and I had no idea who was going to be talking, what they were going to be talking about. It was just going to be a lecture or a workshop. And the whole thing was about the mantis beings.
Synchronicity!
Yeah. So that's the extent of it. But why do you ask? Do you have a connection with mantis yourself?
I've just always been fascinated with them. Like, I've heard stories about how super psychic they are, and like how they could just move their little antennae and tap you on the forehead and read like you and all of your past lives from like ever to ever to ever to ever to ever. And I don't know, I've always really liked praying mantises. Like, as a kid, I used to like keep one in my room on my curtain. My mom wasn't a fan of it, but it's okay. I'm a weird kid. I've always been a weird kid. But I've never had an experience per se with a mantid, but I'm open to it if you're listening.
Sinead, I have not heard that experience. That's pretty cool.
You hadn't?
I did the Roxiva bed at Psy Games. They had them set up there.
What was your experience?
Mine, I saw just like pretty cool fractals and shapes.
Okay.
So it was like the stereotypical psychedelic experience, and you do feel like the purpose of it is not to have the visuals, it's to have the feeling that's associated with it, to make you feel better. And it was like a sense of ease that came with it. So that was cool. But I have had like a weird experience with a praying mantis.
Okay, do tell.
This was a few months ago over the summer, and I was watching. Maybe this is not so weird because I'm always doing or watching something weird, I guess. But I was attending a Zoom on mediumship, and I was in this room that I'm in right now, and I opened my window, and there's a screen behind it. And I usually like don't open windows here. We're just stuck on AC. So this one time, for some reason, I opened the window. It was actually the first time I've ever opened it in this room. And like within 1 minute, a giant, like a praying mantis, probably like this big.
Oh, they're so cool.
Flew and landed right on the screen where it was open. And it just like hung out there for 30 minutes as I was watching the Zoom, and I came up, I took photos of it, and it was pretty cool. So I've had experiences like that, but not an actual mantid encounter.
Okay.
An animal encounter, and it could also be extraterrestrial. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard like Stuart Davis's Man Meets Mantis, and that's amazing. If you haven't heard that, check it out on Aliens and Artists. And he talks about the connection between these possibly extraterrestrial interdimensional beings and the actual animals here.
Right. I mean, I'm thinking of like how often grays are described as coming through as owls, like specifically barn owls for some reason. Like I don't know why, but there's that. So and the thought of like a screen memory comes to mind too, because how much of what you're seeing is what they want you to see versus what's actually in front of you.
Yes.
I don't know. I think about that too.
Yeah,
What you can handle.
I wanted to mention the whole ontological shock thing. I never experienced that either. It was very gradual, almost I feel like a knowing that I probably had since a child, but I was very, programmed, but I was also, I felt a kinship with Sinead's, parents and how they, were questioning things. And I was very similar to that, and so I don't know, but yeah, it was a very gradual thing for me. I was never shocked. It just all seemed to make sense. And I was constantly connecting dots. And I'm still doing that, It's like an ongoing connecting of the dots.
It's endless. It's endless. And I kind of like that. I like that it's endless. I like that we don't just arrive at an answer and are like, right, I've got this all figured out now, because then, that's a hard stop.
They haven't figured it out though. Like most of society thinks they haven't figured out.
100%.
I don't think they do.
No, I don't think so either.
I do think there's
real soon.
I think there's like a sense of ease and comfort that comes with thinking you have it figured out.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like this sense of like the illusion and the veil.
Which is go ahead. I'll let you finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, I think that's why most people like to land somewhere. But there are those of us, probably all of us here, who don't like to land somewhere and realize that we don't, and find something like deeply unsettling about landing somewhere. So
right.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people, when you talk to them or try to talk to them about, UAPs, UFOs, the existence of NHIs, life outside of Earth, it's almost like they can't hear it because they've built their walls up so high and so thick. It like literally, like they're just literally not open to hearing it, let alone accepting it or integrating it. They're just like, nope, la 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 la. I'm good with my religious barriers. I don't want to hear what you have to think. I'm done. And it's like, wow, like there's so much programming from religions, from families, from the culture that you grow up in, from the fucking neighborhood you grow up in, what street in the neighborhood you grow up in. You know what I'm saying? Like there's all kinds of different ways for people to be programmed. Yeah. And yeah, it's just, it's some people are open to it and some people are not. And I'm glad to be on a call with people that are.
Right.
And it's not just religious. It's also like the scientism,
that too.
Reductionist physicalism. It's the same phenomenon there.
And speaking of that, can we get into the story of how you guys met? Because you guys met at Contact in the Desert, am I right?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Tell me the story.
Anthony, do you want to start?
Sure. Okay. Since we told it yesterday on another interview, so Sinead.
Oh, you did. Okay.
There. All right. So there were a series of synchronicities for me that led up to this, but I don't need to go into them right now.
Okay.
So basically, I showed up the night before Contact started, and I had also met Hakeem Isler, who Sinead mentioned earlier from Psy Games. This was
I'm
before
familiar
Psy
with him.
Games. So I had met him at Archives of the Impossible, which was a few months before, and so we had hung out there. So I knew he was going to be at Contact, so I texted him when I arrived, and I was like, "Hey, man, are you here yet?" Like there was no one at the hotel lobby, like the bar area the first night before the conference. So I texted him and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm with a friend. We'll be there in a bit." And we just landed. So he gets there pretty late. I think it was like 10 something. And Sinead was with him. So I had recognized her, maybe her name or her face from some other interviews that she'd done on her experiences. And I was like, "Oh yeah, like I've heard of you." And she's like, "What? Really?" Like kind of shocked. So we just started talking, and within like an hour, Hakeem called it. He's like, "I'm tired. I'm going to bed." And Sinead and I continued talking for like 4 hours at least. And the whole time we're talking, I'm just like, man, this woman's amazing. I was kind of upset that I had a different co-host at the time, and the podcast was called Obliterate the Construct. So I had another co-host, and I was like, oh man, I'm stuck with this other co-host who, she was great, like compassion and love to her, but we did not align a lot of things.
Okay.
And things were kind of like rocky in the podcast at the time. And I was like, oh, like this woman, Sinead, would make the perfect co-host. It's like exactly what I envisioned for the podcast. And I was just thinking all this to myself and not saying it. So Sinead, I don't know if you want to share what was going on with you at the time.
Yeah, at the time, I mean, it was just so funny because I didn't know that Anthony was thinking this, right? Like I'm talking to him like, oh, this guy's awesome. We're totally hitting it off. We're sharing our experiences. It was just this feeling of immediate recognition, like immediate familiarity, like we were best friends, already, like just immediately, right? So anyway, I was thinking similar things, and I was thinking, I'm looking at the two of you, Justin and Allie, like, yeah, that helps. So, one of the things Anthony and I had shared in this conversation was that I had sort of tried to do a podcast because people have been telling me for years, you should do a podcast, but I'm not actually an in front of the camera person. I'm actually much more of a behind the camera person. So I just kept putting it off, and I never did anything about it. And then this girl who met me through something, I don't remember what it was. This is like 5 years ago. She invited me to do a podcast. And I thought, okay, well, she's really gung-ho. She seems to feel that I'm the person she wants to do this with. I think this is the universe knocking on my door, giving me an invitation to do a podcast. So I tried it, but the issues I had with her were similar to what Anthony was experiencing with his podcast co-host, although I didn't know that at the time because he wasn't really talking about it with me. He was just sharing
we did mention both had a PR background, and we didn't like how that came through on the podcast.
That's true.
So there was that connection.
Yes, and he did mention a couple of things that he just mildly mentioned that he wasn't feeling totally in alignment with his co-host, and I was like, oh, and he said a couple of reasons why, and I said, oh, I really relate to that. That's my experience that I had with my former co-host, which at that point I had left the podcast like 2 years before that. Okay. So I was thinking, damn it, he would be so great to do a podcast with. So we're both thinking exactly the same thing, not saying it to each other. And then he went to sleep thinking, oh, I wish Sinead could be my podcast co-host. And I was like, I just went to sleep not even thinking. I thought, well, he's already got one, right? So, I just let go of the idea. But I thought, oh, I met this wonderful new friend, right? Mm-hmm. The next morning, 9:00, we're all bleary-eyed because we were up until 3 a.m. or something talking in the garden of my hotel. We just could not shut up. We just kept talking. So 9:00 in the morning, first day of Contact in the Desert, right just before the first session, and Anthony kind of sidles up to me with this massive coffee. And he's like, Sinead. He's like, hey, Sinead. And I'm like, hey, Anthony. And I could tell he was about to say something. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and he's like, so I have some news. And I'm like, oh, yeah, what's that? And he goes, well, my podcast co-host just resigned.
Synchronicity?
And I was like, what? And then I said, Anthony, are we having a telepathic moment right now? And he says, I think we are. And I said, are you asking me to be your podcast co-host? And he said, yes.
That's so awesome.
I said, yes. So immediately it was just this meant to be thing, this flow of like, yeah, this is the person that I want to do this with, right? So immediately we started planning, and it's just been so easy, to collaborate. We have the identical vision for what we want to do, the kind of conversation we have, the importance of balance. Yeah, all the things. It's been just really great. I could not ask for a better person to do this with. And even though Anthony's in DC and I'm in Toronto, we feel close. Like I feel like, he's kind of with me energetically, and we try to spend time together, and we do a lot of things together. We plan a lot of things together. So it's become a wonderful professional partnership and a friendship as well. Yeah.
I love that for the both of you.
Yeah.
And I love that for your audience who gets to reap the benefits of you two meeting. And I totally feel like your spirit guides shoved you two in the same space together and were like, let the magic occur.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. And I'm so happy that you guys found each other that way. Yeah. And you guys aligned so well.
So, yeah.
Where do you guys see the future of your podcast going?
Oh, I think we
have you thought about it?
Really, I mean, we've been very much in the now with it because we're both very, very busy in ufology. I work for the physicist Tom Campbell. I work for his nonprofit as director of communications. we do the podcast. We're always, helping out. Like I'm representing Contact in the Desert. I'm helping them find speakers. Anthony is an incredibly active disclosure advocate with Citizens for Disclosure and the New Paradigm Institute. So we have so much going on. We're very passionate, and like Leslie, we feel driven. Like this is the mission. This is the mission for us. Our whole life is about this. So,
Yeah.
It's been hard to plan ahead that much. I think we're very much still kind of in the now with the podcast, but
Yeah.
it's like it just has this natural flow. But I don't know. We've never been asked that question before, Anthony. What do you think? What's the future?
Well, I mean, so we have. I mean, we've discussed some vision in the, like, I would say, medium term. Like we have a plan. We just rolled out a few different tiers on Patreon, and we're trying to provide some more offerings and create more of a community around the podcast. So
Sure.
we're about to launch a Discord server. It's been a while on hold, but we're about to bring in more community, and we have a retreat that we're planning for next fall. That's not announced yet.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, we're going to try to invite some of the guests we've had on, as well as audience members.
Nice.
And have like a way that we can interact and do different workshops and hangouts and things like that.
Wow, that sounds like so much fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, we're gonna do like regular Q&A calls through our Patreon, and where guests or audience members can interact with us,
Mhm.
and just create more of that community vibe. So we have a few things lined up, hopefully rolling out shortly.
Very cool. I love when
Absolutely.
things like that are in the pipeline. That's very awesome. And when you do create that server, please send us an invitation, because we are all over Discord all day long. So that's kind of where we live online.
Awesome, we will.
I just invited myself to your party. I hope you don't mind.
You're more than welcome.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all about that, right? Community and collaboration. It's really important that we all come together right now, right? Regardless of different perspectives, opinions,
Right.
politics. It doesn't matter, right? We need to come together as humanity right now. So yeah, we're all for
Yes.
that. Invite yourself to our party anytime.
Yeah.
I have a question. What does the title Fire in the Cosmos mean to each one of you personally?
Ooh, I love that.
So there's a story behind that too.
Okay. Okay.
Pull up my chair. Go ahead.
So let's see. I'm, as Sinead mentioned, I'm active in a few different circles, including Citizens for Disclosure. But I'm also in the more like consciousness side of things. And I've been a part of a few informal groups and like chat groups, but also in-person groups where we organize events. And mostly it's been centered around Virginia, where I live, near DC. Because we have Charlottesville, Virginia there, where the Monroe Institute is right next to it, as well as the Division of Perceptual Studies at University of Virginia. They were featured in Leslie Kane's book, Surviving Death, as well as the Netflix series. So I've been a part of a bunch of different groups that go down there. I know a lot of the folks who work there and research there, and I call a lot of them friends. They're great. Sinead has met them now too. So on one of these events, it was like a week-long thing across Virginia, where we kind of hopped around. We did like some visits to Monroe, to DOPS at UVA, like a friend's farmhouse where we all hang out. And then we went to Virginia Beach on the coast, where Edgar Cayce's Association for Research and Enlightenment, ARE, is.
Okay.
And I was not really into Edgar Cayce. I kind of heard his name tossed around, but he's like a medical intuitive. He was a medical intuitive, very well known on that side of things. Talked about Atlantis and things like that through his channelings, which was pretty interesting in the early 1900s. So very interesting story there. So we go there, and it's a pretty big place. The guy had built like basically a hospital to do his medical intuitive work there, and it's still there, but now it's like a spa.
Okay.
But they also have a museum and a library there. So we were on a tour, and we went into the library, and it's a pretty cool library. They had like a big painting by oh my god, my brain is blanking.
Brain fart.
Anyway,
Okay.
I'll remember it. We were in the library, and I see a book like on the front shelf right when we walk in, and it was called Fire in the Head. And I think the subtitle was like Celtic Shamanism and something else. And I was kind of in a phase in my journey in this field where that side of this was kind of aligning in ways and resonating. Shamanism had been, but the Celtic stuff was more recently, especially the Fae traditions and folk magic. So this book kind of like called out to me, and it had a cool drawing on the front of Cernunnos, the Celtic deity. It's like the Celtic nature deity, who's masculine. So he's like kind of sitting there cross-legged. He has like deer antlers and some cool symbology around him. And I flipped through it. There were some interesting things that I saw inside of it. And then I get in the car after this tour, and I'm driving back across Virginia, and I put on a podcast, and it was a friend who I had just came across his show called Radical Elfame. His name is Chad Andro, and we ended up having him on the podcast later. So I'm listening to his podcast, I think the second time I ever do, and I just picked a random episode. He had dozens. I picked a random one, and actually, it was his latest one. That's right. It was his latest.
Okay.
And he was interviewing a witch from, I think he's from Australia or New Zealand, that area of the world. And he was talking about his traditions and his folk magic practices. And it was a beautiful episode. And throughout it, he mentioned the phrase "fire in the head" like 5 times. A book that I had just seen.
Sure.
And I had never heard this phrase in my life. And I'm driving and I'm like, what is going on right now? Like, what is this? So I looked it up after I arrived, and the phrase is this term that was used to basically mean this awakening, like an awakening, a connection with divinity, or a connection with something otherworldly that causes an awakening. And this like, and specifically that it was ecstatic. So the term "fire in the head" is this like divine ecstasy that's happening in your mind, essentially.
Brain bliss.
That's common in Celtic traditions.
Okay.
It's also a form. It's my family background is Celtic. It's also a form of the shamanic seeing. So it's like the shaman's ability to vision or to travel in other worlds can also be called fire in the head. It's the ability to see, right, without the eyes, like see with the mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, I mean, so after Contact, which was like a few months after this, I told Sinead the story when we actually ended up on the same connecting flight back after that previous
Synchronicity
story. Yeah, we did. He was going to Canada and I was going to DC. We ended up on the same connecting flight. And
your spirit guides were like, we're not done with you two connecting yet.
Yeah. So we sat next to each other, and I was like, all right, let's get to work. And we started brainstorming,
Oh, wow. On the plane you started.
Oh, yeah. There was like, there was like an 8-hour transition from the time my old co-host resigned and Sinead became the new one.
Okay.
So we were just brainstorming, and we're like, all right, well, we should probably change the name too, because it was Obliterate the Construct. So we floated around a bunch of names, and that's the one that eventually landed and resonated with both of us.
Fire in the Cosmos.
There's an additional part of this synchronicity that Anthony's forgetting right now, which is that before he told me about his whole experience with Fire in the Head, I mentioned that I was currently reading Fire in the Head.
Oh, shit.
Wow, you did. I totally forgot that.
Yeah. Wow. I mentioned it to him, and he's like, hang on a second. I just saw this book, and then he sent me the photograph that he took of the book in the ARE library, and told me about the synchronicities with the podcast. It was just totally blowing his mind. But for me, it was also, to answer your question, Leslie, about why this title, Fire in the Cosmos, it's partially that. It's partially the imagery of the phoenix, right? And that we're living in a time. This is something, the phoenix has come up for me so many times through other people, in imagery, just, synchronicity, right? Like phoenix, all over the place. And it has a lot to do with what I think is going on, what my personal feelings are about what's going on right now in our part of the world, at least, but I think in the world in general, that there's a lot of burning down, like crumbling and destroying, and new things are going to be birthed out of that. And that, it might feel incredibly scary, because so many things that are very intense on so many levels, 3D and otherwise, are going on right now for everyone in the world, right? Yeah. So it can be really scary. We can get caught up in that. Oh my God, things are falling apart. Everything's crumbling. What that need for us to have everything is being safe and controllable and predictable all the time in order to feel calm, in order to feel secure, that's really being rattled, right? The rug is being pulled out from under us. And even people who are living firmly in the 3D are experiencing that because of economic unrest or political unrest or climate change, right? So
Just
it
watching
does.
the news every day.
Sorry, what was that, Leslie?
Or just watching the news every day and getting all
Watching the news every day, right? And so fire is an element that I love. I love fire. I think that
Me
fire.
too, girl. I'm a pyro too.
Totally,
To bring me some stuff, let me tell you.
I love fire. I mean, it's part of my makeup in so many ways, like my Ayurvedic makeup, my Chinese zodiac, all this stuff. It all involves fire. There's a fiery side to my personality, you know, but I think that as an element, fire is incredible because it's cleansing, it's destroying, it's purifying, it's powerful in so many ways. And it's a promising kind of metaphor, I think, for what we're heading into, right? That we might see it as being all just destruction, but actually, whenever, for example, if you think of a forest fire, like the Australian fires or the LA fires, whenever something that terrible and tragic happens, it feels absolutely awful. And, you know, you're watching people's lives being destroyed and animals are killed and people die and all kinds of stuff. At the same time, you flip that upside down. And on the other side of it is everything that burns down creates this incredibly potent soil for new things to grow. And so, you know, we are in this cycle of constant renewal all the time. And I think that it's important we don't forget that, right? So when we settled on this title of Fire in the Cosmos, it was really about feeling that fire of the mission, like feeling fired up about what we're doing, fire in the head, shamanism, seeing, spirituality, but also this cycle that we're in of things being destroyed and then recreated, and the passion we feel about that, and how it's not just an earthly thing, it's a cosmological thing that's going on. Like our reality is expanding, right? We're starting to become part of the galaxy, the cosmos, not just that earthly perspective that we've been attached to for so long.
And also not just like a space thing, but also an earth thing. So flip it around.
Yeah,
so it's within us and outside of us, and nature is important too. So
yeah. So the cycle, the life and death cycle, you know, is a scary thing. But when you are, you know, outside looking in, it is birth and rebirth. You know, it's not really birth and death where we never die. And consciousness is a big part of the fabric of everything. We just return and I don't want to say recycled because it sounds like we go away, but our soul, you know, is the main part of this, not this human aspect or, you know, fractal that we are here.
Mm-hmm.
Fire can also be life-giving too, you know, like a lot of people think of fire as like devastation and destruction, but really, I mean, like you mentioned with the forest fires, I mean, sometimes people need to do controlled fires just to get shrubbery away so that light can enter the soil and new growth can form. And then you also have to consider how certain seed pods are so dense that without fire, they will never crack open to form the life that's inside of them. So there's also that aspect to it too.
I personally feel, Anthony's heard me say this a million times, so this is going to be super boring for him, but I really feel that, you know, this is my personal theory at the moment, which could change eventually, right? Because again, I don't get attached to like, this is the answer. I just think, oh, what if, right? So to me, it feels like we're living in a reality, a plane of reality or a dimension or vibration that is entirely made up of dualism, of duality, that absolutely every single thing, I mean, this spoon is dualistic, I am dualistic, so's the wall. I mean, everything, right, is dualistic. And that my personal feeling is that is actually wholeness in this reality. That is the natural balance of things in this reality. It's the way it should be. And we're always thinking, oh no, this is terrible that we have all this really awful stuff, or, you know, why does night exist? Why can't it be day all the time? Why do we have to have winter? I'm in Canada, right? Why do we have to have winter? Why can't it be summer all the time? I mean, the thing is, all of these things exist because they complement each other. They naturally balance each other out. And I think, unfortunately, so does good and evil. Good and evil are natural compatriots of each other. One cannot exist without the other. So it's almost like in this dimension, in order for us to experience good things and to really be able to relish them, we have to also experience the opposite of what that is to be able to really appreciate it, right? And so I think that's a fortunate and unfortunate part of being human. But fire is just one of those dualistic metaphors that to me is wholeness in itself. It is perfection in the way that it is. Even though we're so used to thinking of destruction as being something awful, it isn't always awful.
Right,
You know?
right.
Yeah.
And I just want to share a quick story. Right before we got on the call with you guys, I was listening to a Christmas choir on TV. It was like what are they called?
The Tabernacle
choir, something like that. Anyways, and I was just telling Justin, I'm like, this is so beautiful. Like, look at all these humans getting together and harmonizing and using their voice and playing instruments. And I just really appreciate how there's so many humans working in conjunction together to produce a beautiful thing. And he's like, yeah, but in 5 minutes you'll be banging your head to Ronnie Radke listening to Falling in Reverse. I'm like, dualistic as fuck, man. What do you want me to tell you? I can't help myself. Like, what do you want me to tell you?
Right.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way with my musical interests.
Are you? Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so I want to ask you guys. I would say that your podcast is relatively new, right? Like 6 months old. Is that right?
And like
this version of
it, this version, started.
Okay, cool. But you've already spoken to some really cool people. I was looking at your playlist earlier, and you've spoken with Sarah Gam, who is huge in this UFO community. Like you mentioned earlier, you spoke with Psy Games, Hakeem Isler. That's really cool. So the question that I would like to pose to the both of you is, let's talk like bucket list guest. Who do you want to have on your show? And I'll even add the caveat that could be somebody alive or dead. She just rolled her eyes at me like, oh, girl, you just opened the window too much.
Well, okay, I'll go first. I have a huge amount of love for Hal Puthoff. I think Hal Puthoff is really amazing, and also Russell Targ. Yeah. The two of them, if I could have Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff, and then also John Mack. Diana Pasulka. I've interviewed Leslie Kane, so I can check that box.
Very cool.
Oh, nice.
That Leslie's incredible. I think she's a real hero of mine in the community. There's a lot of controversy about her, but I think she's a solid human being, and she's really dedicated.
Love her.
Yeah, she's really dedicated to the work. Like she doesn't care about being famous. She's not trying to make it all about herself. And so those are the people that I really love, the people who are just like, yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else. And they're working really hard and they don't give a damn about how much attention they get. Those are my people. So,
love that list. Anthony, what about you?
Oh, mine would have also, Diana Pasulka would have been at the top of mine as well.
Still a possibility. You can still manifest that.
Yeah. Her inbox is always full. Diana, if you're listening somewhere, please.
Right?
We'd love to have you on. I want to dive into the Catholic connection and all that, because I do think there's a connection there, at least with some elements.
The Magdalene, the whole Magdalene thing. No, what did you call it? The Marian apparitions. And all those
the Marian apparitions and the phenomenological elements of it, which was discussed in her presentation at SOL, which was my favorite. And I know we want to get into that later. So
yes.
That should be at the top, as well as he's the late Terrence McKenna would be an amazing interview.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Terrence McKenna. That's who. All right. I want to hear Justin and Leslie's answer. I don't know if I've ever asked you guys this. I'll say mine while you're thinking. I want to talk to Dolores Cannon, just because she was so big and monumental in the beginning of my spiritual awakening. She's the one that opened up my world to all the alien stuff and past life stuff and all that kind of thing. So if I could speak to the GOAT, that'd be great. Who do you want to talk to?
I want to say Nikola Tesla.
Oh,
and Edward Casey would be another awesome. I'm saying people, but I have a lot of I think that the people in the past who are gone were awesome, specifically those two, but there were many, they just never got the chance. And it's I feel like we're all pushing still to get these things out that they were ridiculed and, Well, Edgar Casey, I don't know if he ever was. I don't recall a story. I'm going off now though, but it seemed like he was well respected, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, he was.
You bringing that up just reminded me who painted that painting in his library. It was Ingo Swann, and that's another person I want. Yeah, English
me
one is
too.
another I would want. Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Yeah.
someone I would love to interview, and also Madame Blavatsky. Madame
That would be
Blavatsky.
wild.
So many
Whoa.
people that I would
Can I
love to
invite myself to that party too?
Right.
have.
I'm
There may have
terrible.
to be
I'm terrible,
have to be
sorry.
a circle with candles involved for that part.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
The names, for whatever, I can't think of it, but for Theosophy, you know who I'm talking about? Gosh, he was a big, I read a few of his books, but this guy was pretty awesome. But we'll move on. Maybe it'll come back to me like the painting.
Okay. And then what about you? What's your answer?
Paul Stamets.
Okay, yeah.
We're going with the mushroom theme?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Terrence McKenna for sure.
Okay.
And probably Gary Nolan.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gary's really nice.
I would want to ask Gary about the whole shadow biosphere thing that he talked about like 2 years ago and hasn't really mentioned ever since. I want to go back to that.
Tell me about that. I'm not sure if I know what you're talking about.
He said it in a few interviews, like in 2021, 2022, 22, 23 timeframe. And I think he said something like, don't quote me on this.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm working with, or I'm familiar with folks who are working on seeing if there's they're running tests to see if there could be some sort of shadow biosphere or shadow biome that is kind of enveloping our perceptual reality. And in that biome or biosphere, there's others, essentially, like is what he was getting at.
Okay.
And he said that they're seeing some promising results. And he suggested that they had made contact, but he didn't really specify what that meant.
Wow.
Yeah, we need to know about that, Gary. Oh, it's Rudolf Steiner. That's who I
Rudolf Steiner.
Oh, okay, cool. I love how we're all eventually all of our things are coming back.
I wonder if that shadow biome theory relates to this thought that I've had that the Earth itself is being protected by some sort of galactic federation from other, outside entities, right? Just in the same way that the people that live on North Sentinelese Island are protected from the outside by the government of India. And so these indigenous people have lived on this island for like the last, I don't know, I think I heard 60,000 years. It's just the same group or same people that have been there. And they're protected from the outside influence by the government of India. And I don't know, I wonder if maybe that's related to Gary's shadow biome.
Interesting idea.
Theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many intersections, right? Like there's just, we're living in a very we're existing in a very intersectional field, right? Like what you were saying, Allie, before we started recording, really, you were talking about all the different things that you're interested in or that you've had experience with, and you thought they were all separate and all different, but they're actually all part of the same thing. Like it's the phenomena showing up in various ways, in various forms. And then, how much does that have to do with our own perception? How much are we co-creating that experience? How much of it is being given to us by them?
Right.
I think it was the observer effect, because the people who are, I want to say closed-minded, but it's really just a different perspective or whatever. They're not open to certain things, what I'm just saying, what if everybody's reality is what they're open to and willing to imagine or see or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, our repetitive thoughts. I do believe in the law of attraction like 100%. But I can't help but wonder, what if everybody's right, about whatever they think?
I actually think you have something there because, everyone is experiencing their own truths, right? Like there's some truths that we share, but one person's experience of something is not more valid than another person's experience. Like they're both valid, just in totally different ways. And we really have not been taught to think like that. We've been taught to think that it can't be all the things. It can't be all the perspectives. That's impossible. No, it has to be this or that. And either you're in this camp or like you're in the right camp and you think the right way about the right things, or you're in the wrong camp, essentially, right? We just have this incredibly polarized way of thinking. So going back to your question, Leslie, about, the title of our podcast and the metaphor of fire. I think this is one of the reasons that the burning down and the crumbling and the sort of destroying that we're seeing right now in a number of ways, it's important because we've been so rigid in our systems and our thinking and our habits and, all the definitions of what it means to be a human being and the ways that we're supposed to behave as a male, as a female, as a human. Why? I mean, it really doesn't, a lot of it doesn't actually make logical sense. And also, it doesn't seem to be, none of those things seem to be serving us anymore. Like, they don't seem to be giving us benefit anymore. We're now in the middle of a meaning crisis where everyone is really thinking about what is meaningful now. Like, what are meaningful relationships? How do meaningful relationships happen now? Like, how do you have a meaningful relationship with yourself? How do you have a meaningful relationship with nature, with the earth, with the world in general? It's so incredibly complex reality,
I wanted to say, when you were talking about the duality of our, reality here anyway, I couldn't help but think that, everything is in relation to each other as well. You know what I mean? Like and so, and then I felt like I had to say that all of a sudden. I don't know where I was going, but and autistic, individuals come to mind too, and they are breaking that mold. You know what I mean? They're not going to conform, and they're going to but they're showing that spectrum, that really we all are a spectrum, and it's really whatever we are creating our, like they definitely have their own, reality.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know.
A few of my favorite interviews, I love all the ones we've done, but we did one with Joshua Cutchin. If your audience is not familiar with him, definitely check him out. He's written books called Ecology of Souls that are amazing. Very like Jacques Vallée-esque in his approach. Or
add him to our list.
And so he said something. He said this as well as the first interview I ever did in my previous iteration of this podcast with Janice Whitlock. She's a psychologist out of Cornell who also has a podcast with Darren King, Exo-Academian, called Event Horizon. So both of them said something similar, that we're in this dance of reality that is kind of going from the formless to form and from form to formless constantly. And it's just like this weaving dance that permeates everything. And Joshua was talking about it in the sense of his latest book, Fourth Wall Phantoms, where he kind of has this vision of how fiction becomes reality and reality kind of goes back into fiction, and it kind of dances. And he's saying, like, what is going on there with our reality? Like, how does that work? And so it's this very interesting element and theme that I think is kind of on point.
Okay.
I want to just throw out something, and I don't even know how true it is because I didn't go to like research and see if like scientific papers were actually done on it, but it seemed like it was just a short like TikTok video. Yeah, I do. I like TikTok. I'm in the spiritual side of it. I think the not good side of TikTok, but I'm just not there. Anyway, but and I do have a TikTok page if anybody wants to check it out. So, but it was showing the egg, and I guess at the time of conception, they were under a microscope. Obviously, they were able to like look at this. And I hate to say this if it wasn't true, but I feel like it probably is because it makes complete sense. And I did hear that there is a light right when that happens too. We've already figured that much out. But so there's like a wave that goes through this, I guess, egg, but it's literally like Fibonacci. And when y'all were talking about that bed thing, I forget the name of it that you were talking about with the lights.
Oh, the psychedelic experience.
Roxiva bed.
Yeah, it made me think of that because I was thinking about, but it was really interesting. And we all know that, as far as like us cymatics and frequencies and how, all that plays, and I don't know, but it was really cool. And it's neat to think that there's like some Fibonacci wave sequence thing that happens at the moment of creation of life,
I do know there's a green flash of light. I have seen that. I think you showed a video about that.
Okay, so I have some information about that. That was a university study as far as I understand it. Okay. And that is real and true, that scientists were able to image the moment of conception and within a fertilized egg. Oh my God.
That's amazing, though. That's really fascinating.
If you wish to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nicoletta.
And,
All right.
and Bryce Sable's napkin, right?
Oh,
Yes.
that's right. That's right. That's so funny you brought that.
Now, Bryce, we've got to come to an end on this show, but I can't let you go without asking you, come on, a napkin with the secrets of the universe, sound, light, and frequency? What the hell does that mean?
Well, I'll tell you something. I know it's easy to say what you just said. I mean, I would say it myself to you if you were telling the story. But I will say that when I was there and this happened, I did not for a second think I was being goofed on by somebody. I felt like this guy wrote this thing down. I remembered it as a napkin. Brent remembers it as just a regular piece of paper, but he wrote this thing down that looked like a formula. He did it quickly, and he showed it to us, and he said, you should keep this, and in a few years, 10, 15 years, see how it reads to you. And I said, what is it? And he said, sound, light, and frequency, secret of the universe. Now, you laugh, but I remember I saw Tom DeLonge not long ago, I believe on the Joe Rogan show, but it might have been some other show, talking about sound, light, and frequency.
I know. You just took my line. I was going to say, that's what chilled me out.
Yeah.
It sent a shiver down my spine when Tom started talking about sound, light, and frequency.
I keep throwing random stuff into the conversation. Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. But I do want to touch on the SOL Foundation Symposium. Can you tell us like what the vibe was like there and your biggest takeaway message from the event so we can keep it short?
Sure. I'll let you start, Sinead.
Sure. It was, first of all, in the most stunning location. We didn't really get to spend a lot of time really soaking it up as much as everybody wanted to, but it was on Lake Maggiore. I mean, it was just stunning. We were in the Alps. It was gorgeous. So energetically, just feeling that, being in nature, being in the mountains, fresh air, there's a lake right there, that felt conducive somehow to, the topics at hand. And I think there were about 500 people. The turnout was very interesting. I have to say, I've never seen this many finance people at a conference before. There were a lot of finance people there, and that's because SOL is really trying to push forward with fundraising for practical purposes, right? They want to be able to do research. They want to be able to support people who are making progress in the field in whatever way. So the crowd is interesting, really intelligent people, really thoughtful people, really big-hearted people. That really stands out. That's my favorite thing about any event is the people that are there. Like, even though the talks are always amazing, it's the conversations that I love more than anything else, because it's just, that's where all the richness of the tapestry of our community comes out. And so I got to meet even more different kinds of people, meaning the finance folks. They were, oh my gosh, so many different industries that were intersecting there, that I just didn't really expect. I'll leave it at that. And then also really wonderful conversations, like people sharing personal experiences, spiritual experiences, lots of experiencers, of course, were there. And SOL's approach to the experiencers is I feel like it could be opened up a bit more. I feel like they're saying that they're welcoming experiencers into the fold of SOL, and meaning to become speakers, to become presenters, to share information. But it also seems like this is just my personal experience. To me, it seemed like, yes, experiencers are welcome if you're this kind of experiencer, like if you kind of fit this kind of box. And it seemed like they would give the most credence to people who are military experiencers, government experiencers, people who have credibility. And I think that's a little bit unfortunate, because if you think about it, the entire field of ufology would not actually exist if it wasn't for experiencers. Right?
Yeah.
Ones that planted the seeds originally for this to even become a thing. So, I feel like there needs to be, of course, a sense of things being grounded. There's a lot of experiencers and experience stories that are really far out there and are definitely a bit, hard for people to take in and make sense of. And I get that, right? Like there's the gamut. the pendulum swings from nuts and bolts to really, really far out stuff.
Mhm.
But I really do hope that they will flex their perspective maybe a little more and allow for more of the experiencer perspective and the experiencer wisdom to come into the SOL environment so that people can share on that level. But having said that, the presentations were amazing. I mean, absolutely top-notch information. Each speaker was so articulate and really obviously cares a great deal about this topic. That was really what struck me more than anything else, was the amount of care that everyone feels and dedication and passion for this topic from wherever, like whatever angle they're coming from. You could be an experiencer, you could be someone interested in the tech and what's happening with AI, or, you could be into telepathy. It doesn't really matter. From whatever parameter, people are really thinking about this as being something that is very, very important for the individual person, for consciousness development, and for humanity. So for me, it was excellent quality, really excellent conversations. I think there's room for improvement, as there is for every event. Like, there's always things that could be changed or could be done better or done differently, but like seriously top notch. And I give a lot of credit to the organizers for even putting that on, right? It takes a massive amount of work to create
Sure.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
we were,
Awesome.
so, I forgot who told us this, but I believe somebody told us that next year they plan to have an experiencer present.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
they did have,
Yeah.
they had Kate Austin last year, and she got a standing ovation and people cried. I mean, that's the kind of thing I would like to see more often, because that's where it's really hitting us, right? Is that personal level, the heart level, the vibrational level, the energetic level, and the experience, the actual experiential understanding,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
intellectual understanding, but the integrated experiential understanding. And she really brings that, and so do a lot of experiencers. So I hope we'll see more of both the academic and the scientific, and also the experiencer or the personal part.
Yeah, I'm actually glad to hear you say that, because we've interviewed Daniel Bronco, who went to the 2024 one. And then most recently, we've interviewed Chris Lato and Eduardo Mace, who went to this year's SOL Foundation Symposium. And I remember Chris specifically saying that like SOL was like going out of their way to like mention how they're the nuts and bolts aspect of this, right? How they're just trying to provide information where there's scientific data that can be studied and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But then in the hallways, like outside of the presentations, all the conversations were about consciousness and all the woo stuff. So it's very interesting to see that. And then we were talking about the importance of the experiencers in this whole arena, because it seems like the experiencers are the ones that are like pushed in a corner and shoved aside and dismissed so often. And it baffles me, because it's like, how can you ignore the people that have literally had a personal experience with this? And they're like, oh, well, you can't take their personal experience and make data out of it or whatever. I'm like, okay, then how can we convict somebody of murder based off of a witness testimony, but you don't want to give credit to an experiencer who's had a physical experience and discount their their account of what's going on? So I found that very, very interesting. Thank you for collaborating that idea. Anthony, what about you?
Yeah, thanks. Very diplomatically put, Sinead. I'll put it that way. Well done.
Okay.
No, it was a great conference. I will give them that. It was amazing. As always, I agree that the best part of it is the sideline conversations. The presentations themselves were pretty good. What I liked the most was the international element and getting to see what's going on in other countries for once, because we're always US centric in this topic. So that was really important. Very cool stuff coming out of, I think, a university in Germany, I think Würzburg, but I could be mistaken.
Okay.
Some collaborations happening there with people in academia and science. And there was a German MP, a member of parliament, a member of the European Parliament, a European MP, who also spoke, Fabio De Masi. That was pretty cool. He's like one of the few people who's pushing the UAP and disclosure topic in the European Parliament. So that was cool to get that perspective. Because I mean, like the US leads on so many things and they often don't do a great job at it. So it's important that there are other people in other countries who want to take the lead on this.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned earlier, my favorite presentation was Diana Pasolka's. Like it was all about Marian apparitions and this connection with AI and like kind of the next evolutionary step for mankind, and interesting phenomenological similarities between these children oftentimes who have these Marian apparitions and stuff we see in this field. So that was pretty cool. It was virtual, unfortunately, but it was still cool.
Okay.
And then, so like regarding the crowd, yes, everyone from all these different fields does. Most people seemed like they took the topic seriously and were passionate about it, like Sinead said. But from my interactions, the one group who did not was the VC venture capitalist, like finance crowd. They were in it to see how they could
make money,
profit off this. Yeah, so that was taking place. And then regarding like the messaging coming out of SOL and the format and the lineup, we had some discussions with a friend of ours who's one of the advisors for SOL, and we'll be posting some. We did some interviews there. We conducted some interviews, so we'll be posting some of that commentary there.
Oh, awesome!
He was one of them. So yeah, like he gave us a bit of a sense of in his opinion, what they were thinking. Not that he always has the in with Gary or Peter on this, just as an advisor. But there was this sense that they are targeting a specific audience to see how they could progress this topic forward and get funding for science and research and all that. But it does seem like they've made some assumptions about how that's done because of how it's been done historically and what's acceptable kind of historically through our current paradigm in terms of how to approach like a model to get funding, right? So our standard paradigms don't take into account experiencers and the woo and all that, right? That stuff is usually pathologized or, it's too weird. So they're following the same model. And there was an interesting, there were experiencers who spoke up in the Q&As sometimes. Whitley Strieber like stood up and like kind of made this impassioned plea after I forgot this guy's name he presented about. It was actually a wild presentation for me.
Was it the judges one? The ethics of abductions or something like that?
Ethics of abductions. He's kind of making like from a jurisprudence or legal standpoint, like how like make a case against NHI for abductions ethically and like take it to court, right? My qualms with that is he kind of discounted all of John Mack's research. That was upsetting for me. It was like the whole concept of people having transformations as a result of their experiences and then kind of looking back at what happened to them as this kind of evolutionary thing that happens to their consciousness to wake them up. He kind of discounted that and treated it as like, this is what happens with sexual assault victims, right? Like where they try to side with their abuser and try to like make justifications for it. And he was putting it in that framework, which I have a problem with. I can see how that could happen for sure in some cases, but at the same time, you're also discounting people's own takeaways from their experience by doing that.
Sure.
Which I disagree with. Okay. So Whitley stood up kind of after that talk and he was like, well, what can we do as experiencers to help progress this field? Like you're talking about the importance of experiencers. What can we do? And he was just like, his answer was like something like just what you're doing now, just like keep talking about it. But it wasn't a great answer in my opinion.
Okay.
But it was an interesting presentation. But there were others who stood up and asked questions from an experiential standpoint. There were some who asked questions that kind of reframed the view of non-human intelligence just being like something from space that is humanoid, which I think is important. I think it's much broader than that.
Yeah, I do too.
So I mean, there were some good discussions, and I will say there was a statement made at the beginning before the first Q&A that was like, let's not get too woo here with the questions. No questions about remote viewing. So I had a big problem with it.
Really?
Because you're already kind of setting the
Sounds like they're allowing
the
stigma
boundaries.
to guide their boundaries.
I mean, especially if you're having people like that judge talking, presenting, like Diana Pasulka presenting about phenomenological elements of this topic. You cannot shut down discourse about other phenomenological elements because you're not getting the full data.
Right.
There are people in science and academia who are interested in data. There is data there. So it's a skewed approach, in my opinion.
Interesting. Well, I hope that they allow Whitley to be a speaker at next year's symposium. I think that's what ultimately was the conclusion.
That's what we heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard was
want to
the
say his
conclusion
name
of
yet,
that.
just in case it doesn't happen.
But I mean, I think that would be really, really cool. And like I said, I feel like you can't talk about this stuff without talking about the people who had personal experiences with it. I mean, like you want all this data, okay, talk to the people that had an experience with it. You know what I'm saying? I think it's crazy that they're dismissed and shoved in a corner. It's like the movie comes to mind with the quote, "Nobody puts baby in a corner." You know, Dirty Dancing. It's like nobody puts baby in a corner. Let her speak. Let her have her moment. Let's go, little girl. Come on. And yeah, I just feel like that needs to be done for abductees as well. Okay, so in the effort of keeping everybody's time respectful, I feel like now would be a great time for both Anthony and Sinead to tell us tell our audience where they can find you online. Drop your links, let them know what kind of cool stuff you have going on and what they can look forward to from you guys.
Cool. So we are Fire in the Cosmos on YouTube. We're a video format, so mostly on YouTube, you'll get the videos there. We also have some videos on Patreon and some special offerings like behind the scenes stuff and interviews we've done at like special events or house gatherings are on Patreon for members. And we're audio wherever you get your audio podcasts, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we're there as well. And we're going to start writing some written format stuff on our Patreon as well, kind of like Substack style. And on social media, we're on Instagram, on X, and Facebook as Fire in the Cosmos. You can find us there.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Sinead, go ahead.
Well, actually, I was just going to encourage Anthony. Anthony, maybe you can talk a little bit and tell the audience a bit about how they can get involved with Citizens for Disclosure.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't going to make the plug for that, but sure. Yeah.
Plug it.
Yeah, plug it.
Yeah. So that's something else I've been doing on the side. I run the Virginia chapter of Citizens for Disclosure, which is under the New Paradigm Institute. We're just like the volunteer activist movement portion of the New Paradigm Institute, trying to raise awareness on all of this stuff with the general public. And we're also working on the ground and in emails and stuff with Congress to try to get them to take this seriously from constituents across the country. So when Sinead mentioned earlier, like there's not enough people actually like doing stuff in this field, this is one way you can get involved. Even if it's just, clicking a button here and there to send an email that's already pre-populated to your representative or senator. That's still an important thing that most people don't do. And there's a huge lack of political will on this topic right now in this country, and I'm sure in others, but in the US especially. And like we have Senate committees and House committees who have received whistleblowers. And I know from my personal conversations with some people and people who are staffers on these committees that the reason these representatives and senators have not come out and talked more about this topic and the importance of it is because of the lack of political will. And they're afraid that they're going to get voted out. They're going to be made to sound like loons and crazy people by their opponents, by the media, by all that, if there is not enough political will. And the political will is not just the few thousand people on UFO Twitter, So, so it needs to grow, and it has to grow in a movement format, and that's what Citizens for Disclosure does. So if you want to check us out, you can register on the New Paradigm Institute website. There's a button there to sign up, and you kind of get shuffled into whatever state you're based in. And there's a lot of cool stuff we do. We're organizing watch parties right now around Age of Disclosure. But importantly, we're also doing Q&As around it because we know there's a heavy threat narrative in that film. And we have a very nuanced approach to it. Like, it's still important to watch, and there are important takeaways, especially if you're new in this field, new to this topic, to just understand that it's real and there's credible people talking about it. but they're
Absolutely.
also talking about it in a specific way for a specific reason, most likely. So, you know,
Yeah.
we want to have that discussion with the public. So that's one thing we're doing currently. And hopefully we'll do that with James Fox's upcoming film and all that.
Yes. Moment of Contact 2.0. What?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I can't wait. No, I think that's great. And thank you, Sinead, for prompting him to tell us about that, because I always like to give my audience tools that they could stick in their spiritual toolbox or actionable steps that they can take in order to help, you know, move this process along. So that is like creme de la creme, perfect information and advice for them to have. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, now I feel like it is the time for you to ask your famous question.
Okay, so I always ask this question of all of our guests. It doesn't matter who goes first, but what is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
Oh, I want to.
They both said.
My
That's a big one.
my greatest hope is actually is going to be an incredibly Capricorn kind of answer. I was having a coffee chat with our friend Cheryl Hopkins this morning, who's director of programming for Monroe Institute, and she's an unbelievable source of information about astrology, which I never used to take seriously, actually, but I've realized it really has a place in all of this, you know.
She was
So
our last interview, if you want to check her out. She's there.
Okay.
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 Yeah, we will.
She was talking to me about my Capricorn qualities. So I think, you know, one of the things that I find frustrating about the way humans operate, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter about what, is that we do an awful lot of talking. We don't do an awful lot of listening. And we also are not that great always at taking personal responsibility and accountability for how we move through the world. And so to me, it's very, very, very important as part of my spiritual path. It's, you know, a crucial component is the act of taking real responsibility and ownership for who I am. And that means going into my own shadows, looking at my ego, looking at, you know, my fears, my insecurities. I've done a lot of really, really hard work on that. And I think that because each one of us can really only speak from our personal experience, my personal experience is that the spiritual path is, for me, the key to everything. It's the key to all the meaning I found in my life. It's the key to how I got this amazing job as director of communications for Tom Campbell's nonprofit, doing research into psi abilities and consciousness. It literally just landed in my lap. I did not apply for it. I didn't go looking for it. Anthony and the podcast just landed in my lap. You know, it just seems like the more you do that work inside, the more you work on the universe that is yourself, the more take responsibility and accountability for who you are and how you're going to walk through the world. The more
consciously, right?
Yes, the more you create yourself as a magnet, right? Like I think we're always magnets, and we're always drawn towards ourselves. What matches our vibration, what matches our thoughts, what matches our feelings, what matches, you know, whatever we put out is what we're going to get back, right? So I wanted to hone my magnet and make myself a magnet for all the things that really mean so much to me on this path. And so if I was going to narrow it down to one thing, Justin, I would say that taking personal responsibility and accountability it might sound unbelievably boring in Capricorn, but it's actually incredibly powerful and transformative to do that kind of work. And it changes everything else, like everything else. I find that if we just do the work here rather than constantly looking out, expecting other people to change, expecting the government, big mom and dad to do stuff for us, we need to really become aware of how powerful we really, really are and how much agency we have in our lives and how much we can really actually co-create our own reality and draw towards us the things that we want in order to be a better human being, in order to live the best life that we can for ourselves, for each other, for the planet. So to me, it's all about the individual and the work that we do inside. Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely.
Yes.
Love that answer.
Same.
Yeah.
It would be amazing if everybody did that work, and the world would be like totally peaceful. And
I still have a theory that I feel like all of the world leaders should go on a mandatory ayahuasca or DMT trip, because I feel like they would totally
100%.
operate differently having that understanding.
I'll go a step farther and say that I think they need to have at least 6 ayahuasca trips before they can take off.
Dang, Nick. Okay. I was trying to,
Okay.
I was trying to baby step it. He's marathoning it.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anthony, what's your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
Yeah. And really
yeah,
quick before Anthony answers, I'm sorry I laughed, Allie, when you said that, but it was just I had this immediate visualization of all these world leaders in suits like rolling around on the floor of, the House of Commons on Iowa.
Laughter is medicine. I don't take offense, girl.
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you, Sinead. That was great answer.
Yeah, no pressure.
My hope, my greatest hope for the future of humanity is that we, through what Sinead is talking about, the next step is that we develop a more relational way of being with each other, and not just each other, but with the entire cosmos around us. Because through the work that Sinead is talking about, I think we can become more in tune and aware of a much wider and more beautiful and more interconnected reality. And that relationality, this back and forth, not just about you, but about you and how you are affecting others and how others are affecting you, can change everything for us. So a more relational future.
Oh man, we need to manifest what both of you just said like immediately. That'd be great.
Yes.
No problem. Yeah, like tomorrow we'll have it done in 24
Awesome.
hours.
That sounds amazing. Okay, cool. Is there any last things you want to say that we didn't talk about, that we didn't mention, that you forgot to say before we close out?
Yeah, there is one thing I want to say.
The floor is yours.
As I feel like everyone has a so-called hair shirt, right? Like something really challenging that they deal with in their life. It could be, a trauma of a certain kind, or it could be mental illness, or it could be physical disability, or whatever it is, right? I was born into a body where my ears don't work and I'm deaf. And a lot of people would think, that's so sad, or it's the worst thing in the world. It actually really isn't. I have found that it's been an incredibly important gift for me. And one of the reasons is that it's taught me about listening, the importance of listening. So listening is something that we really are not that great at. And I think we do, we humanity, right? We do an awful lot of talking. Everybody feels it's very important for them to say their opinion, what they think. It's a big part of how we gain status with each other. And I really wish for us to do a better job of listening, because I think it would take a lot of, it would solve a lot of problems quite naturally if we were just in a more receptive state to each other and to nature and to everything else. So
yeah,
I just want
respond, don't react, and is a good one. Oh, and then when you were saying that, I couldn't help but think of that silent and listen are spelled with the same letters.
Yes. Oh, right. And you know what else? Earth and heart are spelled with the same level. Yeah. I mean, I personally think the earth is alive. I think she's a conscious being. That's my personal feeling. So, why are we not listening to her? Why are we not listening to animals? Why are we not listening to nature? We impose our perspective onto it rather than taking it in. So I just want to encourage the audience to
another one of the, just because I can't help but point it out, but reaction and creation are also spelled the same. And I made a little quote out of that. I can't think of what it is.
Well, just piggybacking off Sinead for my final word, I would say, yeah, like listening is really important, and listening in ways that we don't often do in this community is bringing in voices, minority voices from other cultures, other traditions. The indigenous connection with this field is really important, and their voices have been stamped out, unfortunately. I didn't mention this, but I'm not American originally. I was born in Lebanon, but I was raised in this country, so I have a pretty American-centric perspective. But the cultural background and even the religious background was important and formative for me, and helped me see different connections in this field that I otherwise would not have. So I would say, like, to audience, to whoever, other creators, like, keep bringing on people from these other traditions, other cultures, other religions, because even though if we don't agree with everything they say, there's going to be important things that come out of it if we listen fully.
Sure.
Yeah. And I can't help but think about these non-speakers with the telepathy tapes, like everybody needs to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
And I also feel the need to, like, I don't know if it's even appropriate to do this, but I want to like thank the indigenous communities for holding it down and staying strong and hanging on to their culture and their language and their beliefs and their practices and their rituals, because I feel like that wisdom has the power to like save us from this like materialistic, disconnected, like tech-centered, materialism-centered mind frame. And I really just, the more I dive into indigenous culture, the more I'm like, holy shit, thank God these people exist, and thank God they're still willing to share their wisdom with us, because we put them through hell. And for them to still be like, yo, we are all one, like we all need to like work together, I feel like that's beautiful. Like and I feel like beautiful is too small of a word even, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
So thank you to all the indigenous cultures,
Yes.
Native Americans,
Yes.
Yeah, and going back to what Anthony said about relations and relationships, I mean, there's a phrase used in Indigenous wisdom: all are relations, right? So just bringing it back to what he said and to the importance of listening to ancient wisdom. I mean, they've known what's up for thousands of years. It's really time that we gave them our ears.
Absolutely.
Full stop.
Absolutely.
Full stop. Well said. Wow, this has been an amazing conversation. I feel like we could keep talking to you guys for like another 10 hours, but I want to respect your time. So thank you so much for coming on our show. Thank you for sharing all of your personal experiences and your stories and your wisdom and all that good stuff. And thank you, Justin. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Sinead. And to our audience, thank you guys for sticking around and for tuning in. Please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. All right, Anthony and Sinead, we do a 3-piece closer. I'll demonstrate it for you, and then if you're willing to join us, you are more than welcome to. We do much love, peace, and namaste. You guys down?
Love it. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Much love. All right. Peace. Oh, love the hearts. And namaste. Glitter.